Hello and bienvenidos to Life's Questions and Lessons. I am your host, Charity Youngblood, and I am so excited that you are here with me today. This podcast is unedited because life is unedited. Now let's get started with today's question. What does consistency mean to me? What does consistency mean to me? So I was recently in a workshop and the topic of consistency came up. It always comes up, especially in being a partrepreneur, being an entrepreneur. The success of our businesses, the success of building our personal brands really is in the being consistent. And it was interesting because one of the attendees was just like, I have such a hard time being consistent. I don't really like to have to do the same thing every day. Like showing up every day is very difficult for me. And I asked her and I said, well, why do you think that consistency has to mean every day? And she was like, well, it doesn't? I mean, she was very confused with my question, first of all. And I thought that was a perfect topic and question to really bring to the podcast. For some reason, and obviously it really is probably in the entrepreneur world and in our, highly ambitious people and all these books and resources of you have to do something every day to be consistent. You have to do, have a routine every day that's the same. And one of my gifts is to really question everything. That's why I love this podcast. That's why this is so much of who I am, and sharing this piece of me to help you understand, question everything. If you think about being consistent and showing up, why, if you do feel like it's every day, why? Is that your own belief, or is that a belief of someone else that you might be modeling after? Is that something that you think you have to do, or is that something that you actually have to do? So in the context of the workshop, I, articulated to the person, I said, I've had a podcast for over 2 years that I have shown up consistently for every single week. And I said, I have struggled with consistency my whole life. I will always struggle with consistency because I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. But when I commit to something, if I'm going to commit to being consistent, you better believe I'm going to figure out how to be consistent. So for me, I had to ask myself, what does consistency mean to me? And what is the simplest way that I can show up consistently? So for me, consistently just means, more than once, right? Like that's my definition. So the way that I show up more than once is twice a week here with you on this podcast. And that being able to do something in the skin that I am in, showing up as I am, it made it that much easier. Like I know that I can't do it every day, but I don't have to. So I really, really challenge you, even if it's not necessarily being consistent at something in particular, I really challenge you to question these beliefs, question these rules that have been set for you and for me, and really determine what it means to you. That's really what I'm trying to teach you on this podcast. I want you to be able to listen to yourself, to evaluate how you feel about something and use how you feel and how, what your preferences are, what your goals are to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And it is difficult sometimes. So I definitely would encourage you to listen to yourself, maybe in isolation, and, be very careful with who you share your new ideas with. Because sometimes if it's too alternative, right, it's met with, well, that's how we've always done it. So I really encourage you to take time to listen to yourself and trust yourself with these questions first and foremost. So those are the questions I had on my heart today. Thank you so, so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening to my words. And if this episode was helpful for you, please share it. And until next time, take care.